The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You've always got time for short time.
Hey, it's Mario Lopez.
David Taylor.
Brent Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine.
The one and only Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
Now up on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, we're going to go out to the great state of Montana, one of the few states in this nation I have yet to actually step foot in. We'll be talking with Caleb Schaeffer, the head wrestling coach at the University of Providence, formerly known as the University of Great Falls. First of all, Caleb, not your first appearance on the show, but your first appearance as a in-studio kind of thing where we're not at a national championships. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Jason, for having me.
Okay, so there's a lot of discussion about the Blue Ribbon Task Force that came out on the story that came out via TrackWrestling.com and Andy Hamilton's piece, and Division I Wrestling. But before we even get to our topics about what's going on in NAIA wrestling, there are changes afoot in the NAIA, and there are changes on your campus. You're about to get a new wrestling room, but the biggest change is identity. You guys are no longer known as the University of Great Falls. You are now known as the University of Providence. Explain maybe in layman's terms what that all means and how that all happened.
We've always been owned by Providence Health Systems. It's a healthcare hospital organization that is out in the Northwest, the third largest healthcare system in the United west of the Mississippi. They've always owned us. They've just taken a little bit more ownership, and they wanted to change our name so people knew that they were a part of us. And we have been having some money infused into our school, so we will be having new programs coming on campus, one being a new women's wrestling team. We'll be having a brand new wrestling facility put on campus. So some big changes are happening at the University of Providence right now just because of the name change.
Yeah, and so now this means the identity is like, how confusing is it for you right now, and how much Great Falls gear had you have to give away because it's no longer Great Falls?
Well, I was here since day one. Van Clay brought me in, and 13 years ago we started this program from scratch. So I've had 13 years of University of Great Falls gear, and it's kind of hard. I always catch myself saying University of Great Falls, but I'll get to University of Providence someday and name it the right way all the time. But we're excited. We have a new women's wrestling program starting out with a new name change. It only brings great things for our men's program. It brings light to our university that we are all about wrestling. So we're excited about the name change.
So the name change did not affect the mascot. They are still the Argonauts. People, the Argonauts.
Yeah. We are the Argonauts. We did change our colors. We are no longer the yellow and baby blue, though. We are a navy and like a poison green, a Kelly green. So
I like how you go poison green based on the band. Because if you look at the album covers or CDs, for those of us that you and I are somewhat in the same age demographic, yes, the green lettering of the band Poison, that was probably a very good way to describe it.
Yes, the 80s babies understand what exactly Poison is.
I was actually born in 1979, so I did grow up in the 80s. I'm technically not an 80s baby in the literal sense of the term, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're going with that. Now, other things that have been popping up in the NAIA, as we get to the discussion now with the comparisons on a lot of stuff going on in D1. The NAIA, for those who didn't know or don't know, up until about 5-6 years ago, had this really convoluted qualifying procedure, which you could actually qualify for the national championships based on placement at an individual tournament depending on its size. Caleb, why don't you just break down what that was like, and you wrestled in that era?
So it was really confusing, but anybody could qualify. We were trying to get our numbers up. We had 12 that could qualify for nationals. When I wrestled at Northern, we'd have 20 kids that would actually qualify for the national tournament, and we'd have to whittle that down to 12. And we'd usually have those 20 qualified after the second open. So now it's a lot more structured, but in the past we were just trying to get numbers to the national tournament. I think we had over 400 one year, maybe 360, somewhere around there. I don't know the exact numbers, but it got too big for the national tournament when we were doing it that way.
And when you say too big, we look back at, I think it was like in 2004, 2005, there were about 20 NAIA programs. Now we've added currently 47 new ones since 2054, if you count the schools that have reclassified to Division II. There, of course, the programs like Cal Baptist, Lindenwood, Notre Dame College. But when we look at the old system, it was like, okay, you've got teams realistically that had no business bringing 10, 12 athletes. And now you can qualify 10, 12 athletes, and it eliminated, as you guys used to call it, the national tournament, the bonus round, where it's like, all right, it's Penn City.
It was definitely the bonus round. That 64-man bracket, the first round of 64 to the first round of 32, it was definitely bonus round, and the top teams were definitely scoring a lot of points during that bonus round.
So the move to the regional qualification, or as the NAIA calls it, the qualifying groups, I believe it started at 4, or was it always at 6?
It started at 4. We had a north, a west, east, and south in there. So now we're moved to 8, and we're making a conference alignment. We are more worried about conferences rather than regions and regional alignment.
And with that, going back to the group qualifications, instead of qualifying through, okay, I placed 8th at a 32-man bracket, which was kind of like the old way of doing it, it went to a true regional qualification where the top 3, 4, depending on the size of the region, will qualify for the nationals, and then there were some wild cards by the national committee. Now, same type of situation, although there's still some differences, as I believe only the champion of each region is guaranteed, and then we go to a system. How does this new system work?
So we're trying to make it more aligned with Division I to a certain extent. We have it based off of what your final ranking is. And if you're in the top 20, your conference gets that automatic qualifier going into the regional, the conference tournament. So if you have 6 ranked at 125 in your conference, you have 6 allocations coming out of your conference tournament. Placed in the top 6, you get a go. So we made it more aligned with that conferences, the more depth and the stronger the conference is, the more allocations you're going to get out of those conferences.
So instead of geographic groups, folks, here's what we've got for our conference breakdowns instead of group breakdowns. And some of these you will see natural conferences where a lot of teams already were, basically, for lack of a better term, they already were their own region. But the American Midwest, the Appalachian, which is a new conference sponsoring wrestling for the first time, every school in there is a brand new school since like 2001 at least. Cascade, which is where you guys are at. Great Plains, Heart of America, which both those conferences have traditional wrestling participation. The Kansas Athletic Conference, the Mid-South, and the Sooner. So getting the conference names behind this, how important was that for you guys?
I think it was huge. We believe that it's going to grow wrestling programs. Conferences like winning conference titles, like winning conference awards for the all athletic points, and now we're aligned with that. So we believe more schools are going to be adding wrestling in these conferences due to now that it's called a conference tournament rather than a regional qualifier.
From your administration standpoint, how important is, say, in Division I, we're familiar with, it's called the Directors Cup with the NAIA All Sports Championships. How important is a true conference championship to your administration?
It's huge. We're trying to win conference titles, and then we're worried about national titles. But we also have to be getting some type of awards, and it gives us validity to be around. And presidents, athletic directors love conference titles, and they can show off. Like just like the GPAC. The GPAC, Great Plains Athletic Conference, has been one of the strongest athletic conferences with wrestling due to their strong affiliation. They've always been a conference. So they've been touting that they're conference champs. Now we're all in line with that, and I think it's going to just grow wrestling in the NAIA even more than it has.
So looking at the schools that are first of all, what is Providence's all sports conference outside of wrestling? Are you guys a Cascade member or just an affiliate of the Cascade?
We were dual affiliated with soccer, softball, and wrestling now, but we are part of the Frontier Conference and the Cascade. we've had a dual relationship because our football teams joined both as well. So it's always been a joint conference, Cascade and Frontier.
So when you're looking around, and you wrestled at Montana State Northern, which is not in Harv, it's in Havre, for those who look at the spelling and want to know how to pronounce, like Brett Favre, not like Brett Favre, it's Havre, even though it's kind of spelled the same. But when you look at the just the geographic makeup, adding more programs is helpful for you guys because you don't spend as much on travel, even though what's the average travel budget for you guys out in Montana?
Man, it's absolutely huge. Our closest tournament is Havre, of course, the hour and a half away, and then our next closest is 8 hours away in the NAIA. So we need programs to grow out west. We can't have these programs keep dropping like a Boise. We have to have validity. We have to show that we belong in the wrestling world, and we can't just be afraid of growing programs out of the Northwest. We just need them out here. It's just the travel is outrageous.
Now, if there are, if you can speak on this, how many schools up in those you talk about the Frontier and the Cascade of schools that you've heard of, like, okay, well, we're looking at adding wrestling program here in the near future?
I think you're going to see two just out in the Idaho-Oregon area add wrestling due to us having a conference now and Boise State dropping. I would not be shocked if you hear of one in Idaho in that same location that's going to add it in the next 2 years.
And we're talking NCAA or NAIA level here?
We're talking NAIA again.
All right, so we'll just, again, no nothing in terms of, if you geography buffs can go figure that out. I'm sure you can read between the lines there. Now, as we talk about the Cascade, Eastern Oregon brought its program back. Embry-Riddle, which is probably the furthest trip you guys have to make within conference. In case you're wondering, folks, they're in Prescott, Arizona. Menlo College in California, Simpson in California, Warner Pacific in Oregon, you guys up there in Montana. And, of course, one of the legendary programs within the NAIA, Coach Mike Ritchie in Southern Oregon. There is a real rivalry and a bond between a lot of you coaches that have been there for a while. Of course, you being a Northern graduate, Ritchie being around for so long. What's that relationship like when you guys are in duels and in tournaments against each other, but also maybe just hanging out on the sidelines when you guys aren't wrestling?
Yeah, man. The West now the Cascade Conference is a great group of coaches. We band together. We try to get our conference the strongest so we get the most allocations going to nationals. Mike Ritchie, I lean on him a lot for tutelage, some advice, and he's been a great mentor for me. And David Ray, the ex-Northern coach there, I lean on him a lot. And, it's a really strong bond in the West because we know how far we have to travel. It always seems like everyone's kind of out to get the West, in our opinion. And we just have a great group of guys coaching together. And I'll tell you what, we have some of the best duels, I believe, in the country. If anybody wants to come watch an amazing duel, come watch Northern University of Providence. We'll get about 2,000 people. Buses come in. It's an absolutely awesome atmosphere.
Let's talk about your career. What made you choose Montana State Northern back when you were coming out of high school?
Oh, man. I don't know if I could talk about that. I'm married to another gal, but I went because I had a high school sweetheart, and my brother was an assistant coach at Northern. There wasn't many opportunities at the Division I level that were close to me, and I was in love, and I thought I was going to stay in love, so I stay close to home.
Well,
but you know what?
I'll make you feel a little better. I know my wife went to a certain school because her high school boyfriend went there. Now, that was 20-something years ago, so water under the bridge, I think we can all agree.
It is definitely water under the bridge. But you know what? Northern had a tremendous record. They went to the biggest tournaments I knew I was going to be seeing. We went to Midlands. We went to Vegas. David Ray got us out in front of a lot of people, and we wrestled the best competition in the country, even though we didn't get a wrestle at the Division I. I mean, my teammate won the Dan Hodge Trophy. I think he was one of two only out of any other division to win the Dan Hodge Trophy.
Yeah, what was it like watching Emmett Wilson do that? And that's the name we're talking about. He goes through, I'm going to win these big Division I tournaments, and he's just a farm boy at Montana State Northern.
Emmett Wilson was a character. He wasn't afraid of anybody. He only won 2 state titles out of Montana. Wasn't a very highly recruited athlete, but he excelled. David Ray got Lee Fullhart in to train with him from Iowa, Terry Brands. Those two were our assistant coaches. And then, we went to the biggest tournament, so we weren't afraid to wrestle the biggest guys and the best guys in the country. Emmett Wilson got invited to the All-Star Classic. 5 guys declined offers to wrestle him. That said a lot about Emmett Wilson. People were afraid to wrestle him. But he was a country bumpkin that just liked to be out on the ranch and fencing. And you know what? When it came to wrestling, then it was time to lace up the shoes. But other than that, he was a farm kid.
Did the whole league seem, and I remember kind of casually following this as I wasn't really fully in-depth in the college wrestling scene at that time, but what was the mood like amongst the other teams in the NAIA about what this guy was doing?
You know what? It put us on the map. Everyone was supportive of Emmett Wilson. Kind of like, Dutchess. Even though he went Division I, he was placed at Midlands. Grandview's that had these guys. We love it when these guys are succeeding and these other coaches are getting on their coattails and riding it because, we have some validity that NAIA is just not a place where some of the best wrestlers don't wrestle.
Now, we look at the dynamic, and we mentioned this almost ad nauseum, where you can wrestle multiple wrestlers in a tournament, and has it changed to where it used to be, I think you could load up as many as a weight class as you wanted. Now, is it a max 2 per weight class?
Are you talking about the national tournament?
Yes,
or,
nationals.
So national tournament, we used to be able to put 12 in. You could bring your 12 best guys. You could double up in weight classes. I think that's what separates us from any other division. It helps us recruit, and we're still that way. We bring our 12 best to the conference tournament, and we could double up in weight classes. We don't have to bring a 197 if we don't want. We could bring 2 184s. One
thing this presents a lot less now than it was when the NAIA was still in that low 20s with membership was you'd see teammates wrestle in like maybe the national finals. You had this experience. What is that like, wrestling your teammate, a guy you drew with every single day? You're like, we're wrestling for a national title here.
On the forefront, it seems like it's an unbelievable thing. He was my roommate.
Wait, you wrestled your roommate for a national title?
Yeah, he was actually my roommate.
Jeez.
So it seems great. You have your best practice partner. You know what everyone's doing. You're pushing each other. But after it's all said and done, there are some relationships that kind of were burnt. So that's the sad part about it. But other than that, it's pretty neat that you have some of the toughest guys that you'll ever compete against in your own room. My first year coaching, I actually had 2 guys wrestle each other from University of Great Falls in the national title as well. So it kind of brought back some good memories and some bad memories when I was coaching it.
And if I recall, that match was pretty chippy too, in terms of what the fans were thinking, right?
It was very chippy. And both times, no one's going to win in that situation. They don't know who to root for. And when you're wrestling in your home state, like I was, it was kind of bittersweet because you don't have the fans completely on your side. So, like I said, it's bittersweet, but it was also on the front end. It's one of the best experiences because you're practicing with one of the best guys in the country, and that's what's getting you there.
Bringing things back around to, and you mentioned Eric Van Clay earlier. He is now the head wrestling coach and athletic director at Central College in Iowa. Started the program as an NAIA school, as you are now. What was it about Eric Van Clay that was crucial to starting that program, and what did you see with him when he brought you on staff?
Eric Van Clay understands wrestling. He understands the administration part of it. He knows how to start a program. He knows how to develop it. He's very relationship-based. He is exactly what we needed to start a brand-new program in Montana. Maybe he didn't have the accolades that some other coaches would have in the state of Montana, but he had the background of how to start a brand-new program up, get the right kids, get the administration involved, and I think he's doing that at Central Iowa as well. He has a brand-new wrestling room. He has the most kids he's ever had on a wrestling team for quite a while. He's had All-Americans now, and I don't think they've had All-Americans in the last 25 years. So he knows how to start up a program and get it to where it needs to be.
Let's circle back to, again, the growth of the NAIA. We have talked about how much fun and the dynamic of the tournament, which is be in Des Moines this year. It's been in Topeka the last couple years, who did a great job at hosting the event. Actually, thankful that I got to be on the call there with Dort Mayab as far as the PA goes. So same thing's going to happen this year in Des Moines, by the way. I'm back on the mic. But when we look at
That's awesome, Jason. We need you.
Okay, this is about me giving you guys the props, not the other way around. But we talk about the growth here, and again, those years where the numbers were low and you had to find ways to make the national tournament relevant. What is the thought process within the NAIA coaches, and you're the vice president of the NAIA Wrestling Coaches Association, about this growth? How are you guys dealing with, okay, we got growth, now we need to get the word out that we are an option, a scholarship option in most places for wrestlers to get a 4-year degree at a school that's probably smaller and going to give them what they need academically?
We need more guys like you, Jason, giving us plugs, saying that we're relevant. We need more guys like Emmett Wilson. We need more kids buying in that maybe the NAIA is a better route for an education to go to, and buying in that it doesn't always have to be the Division I route. There is good wrestling at any other division, name it Division III, Division II, NAI. The more we get on the map, the more we get our kids out there at these big tournaments placing, I think it's going to get it more relevant. The biggest growth right now is NAI wrestling, and we have to embrace that, and we have to be able to say, you know what, these guys are valuable, otherwise wrestling is going to die. I don't truly believe that, but if we keep doing it the way we are doing it and only worrying about Division I, it could be being seen as, man, are we relevant?
We look at the national championships and the new programs, and we've almost gone the whole show without talking about Grandview. But these guys have kind of taken the championship banner and held it looks like, I think, 6 straight years. That if I'm just not, it's off the top of my head, but Nick Mitchell is almost like it's like Wartburg has been cloned into the NAIA. And what's Grandview done in terms of the level of competition for you coaches, not just out west, but in the entire league as a whole?
We're all looking up to him. We're all trying to catch him. We're all trying to get to doing what Nick Mitchell is doing. He took what Wartburg was doing, he wrestled for him, and he cloned it, like you said, in Des Moines. They're in the hot spot of wrestling. They're getting great kids. They're getting kids to buy into their system. They have a great assistant coaching there. Nick Mitchell is getting them to all buy into what his philosophy is, and we're all trying to catch them. We're all trying to figure out what they're doing, and we're not. And but it's going to be a long time, I think, before any of us do catch him, because he has it cooking right now. And you know what? It's good for NAI wrestling too. Nick Mitchell, Grandview Wrestling is a good thing for NAI wrestling because, again, it gives us validity. It makes people realize that it isn't just NAI wrestling. They're placing at Midlands. They almost beat Iowa State in a duel. We'll see if Iowa State duels them again now that Kevin Jackson's gone. But, I'd like to see that duel again. I mean, that came down to one match, and I think they had one starter out.
Well,
and
if Brandon Wright makes weight, it's a different story.
It really is. And then we're talking that Grandview just beat Iowa State. And now we're saying NAI does have a spot in college wrestling. So we love what Grandview's doing. We're all supportive of it. We need to catch them. We need to do a better job the rest of the teams.
Well, looking at of course, the record prior to 2014 was back again in the bonus round era when Steve Costanzo was the head coach at Dana College, and he has done tremendous things moving on to St. Cloud State in Division II. And then, we see Dana win, then Lindenwood, and then Notre Dame wins the next two. So there's a 5-year span there that those teams that won titles are gone. The school is closed. Actually, you go back to 2005. The only active team in the NAIA since 2005 to win a national championship was Grandview, as everybody else is either closed or in another division. You have to go back to 2004 when, as you mentioned, David Ray, maybe fairly well, at Montana State Northern wins the national team championship. And we look at the teams that are now running up. Northern's been second. Southern Oregon's been second. You guys have been second. Lindsey Wilson and the job Corey Ruff is doing down there, they've been second. What's that say about the depth beyond Grandview that makes the NAIA championship tournament fun for fans to attend?
Well, that I think anybody, if you grab you out, and I don't like to just say that because I don't want to sound like I'm defeated by no means. But you throw them out, it's very competitive. The span between second and fifth, it could go any way, and it's always changing between what a Corey Ruff or Mike Ritchie's ran off quite a few of them. Northern's been doing a great job. You have teams out like Campbellsville. You have the Missouri Valleys. All these teams are getting 4 or 5 athletes, and there's more depth. So you don't need 12 guys to play second anymore. And that's the exciting part. You're getting more depth. You're getting more quality wrestlers, and the point spread is getting a lot closer. So it's an exciting tournament to watch because you have no clue who's going to be between second and 10th.
Oh, speaking of point spread, we talked about that record that Dana set in 06, which was matched in 14 and then destroyed in 2016 and then destroyed again in 2017 as Grandview scored 234.5 points. From when you look at that, like, is that what's the issue with the spread there? I mean, is that something that is it saying, okay, well, Grandview's just that much better than everybody else, or is it just peaks and valleys? I mean, how does that point spreads close between first and second?
Well, I think it might even be gap widening because all the other teams are so dang close. And you're getting teams like Bruton Parker in there that are still in 2 or 3 All-Americans from Northern that used to get those lower All-Americans. So that's why that point spread is happening, is because these other brand new programs are getting 2 or 3 All-Americans every year, and it's just making all those other teams a lot closer. We got to get better. We got to catch up to Grandview. We have to start stealing some of their All-Americans, and I think programs like Southern Oregon, Lindsey Wilson, new programs like Bruton Parker, Life, watch out for Life. They got some great guys. He came from Grandview, Omar Casa. He's going to do some great things, and I think that point spread will start getting whittled down here in the near future.
Also, they actually walked into an accidental assistant coach and a guy named James Yannishonis, who was an All-American at Penn State not that long ago. So I see him in Topeka. I'm like, what are you doing here? He goes, dude, yeah, I'm in school at Life, and they needed an assistant coach. So here's a D1 All-American just walking into your wrestling room there. So Life University down there in Georgia has done good things. Also a men's and women's program down there. We've got teams in Florida now. We got teams in Montana. We got just teams everywhere. 47 current programs that exist in the NAIA were started after 2001. Caleb, that's just something that shows the growth and I guess even sometimes a family atmosphere. That's everybody. All these teams are kind of in the same boat. There's no real old school teams. There's only like 3 or 4 that are real like old school programs within the league. It's basically an old league that's brand new again.
Yes, it really is. You only got Northern, Southern Oregon, and I know I'm going to miss one in there that have been around for forever in the NAIA. They're all brand new. We're young coaches, and we're excited to bring wrestling on the map again.
All right, Caleb, we haven't done the short time segment in a while, and I'm going to put you on blast here with 10 questions, 90 seconds. You ready for the challenge?
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, question 1. I don't even know if you're on Twitter, but who's your favorite person to follow on Twitter?
Man, I don't do Twitter, tweet. I don't even know what that is. So I have no idea.
Question 2. You win the Olympic gold. What are you having for dinner?
T-bone steak.
All right. The best wrestler people don't talk about.
Jordan Oliver.
All-time favorite flavor of Gatorade.
Great.
Your favorite video game of all time.
Mortal Kombat.
All right, that's good. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, back. Was it Start Up for the fatality on Scorpion? I think with the.
Yep.
I wasn't a Genesis guy. I was a Super Nintendo guy. All right, question 6.
Finish up.
Finish up. Favorite international wrestler of all time.
Krellin.
Most widely said phrase at the NAIA tournament.
Anything can happen.
Actually, that is false. I was going to say, shut up, Caleb. Okay. Question 8. Who's one guy from history you'd like to wrestle regardless of weight class? Whether it be a wrestler or a historical figure or whatever.
John Smith.
You want to wrestle John Smith?
Yep. I'll take him on right now. He's been up to our camp. He's getting a little old. I think I could take him.
I'm going to make that a soundbite for this show. Question 9. Funniest teammate of all time?
Emmett Wilson.
What? Why was... Okay, I got to know. You've explained why he was a beast. Now, why was he funny?
Man, I have so many Emmett Wilson stories. It's unbelievable. Here's one Emmett Wilson story. He caught a porcupine one night.
What?
Put a collar around it.
What?
Brought it into a bar and was saying it was his pet.
What?
So...
Then let it go in the dorm room.
What?
Oh, okay,
Super glued his front teeth into his head, back into his head after they got knocked out.
What?
We still talking about the porcupine, or is this a second story with the teeth?
That's another story. I got tons of them.
I was just saying it wouldn't surprise. Okay, so let's just. I'm stopping the clock on this. I got to know more. Okay, 1, you catch a porcupine, which is problematic as it is. 2,
So you can imagine what he has in him. Quills everywhere.
okay, so then he brings it into a bar.
Yep.
What?
With a collar and a leash.
What?
How long was he allowed in this bar with the porcupine?
Well, you got to think it's Havre, Montana, so he was allowed quite a while with that thing in there.
Oh, I have no words.
I told you, Emmett Wilson, the funniest guy I've ever been around, especially teammate.
We're gonna need to circle back in Des Moines and see if we can get Emmett on the show to talk about some of these things if he feels up to it. Okay, so back to the question. Question 10. What is your spirit animal? And you better not say porcupine.
Northern Light.
What is a northern light?
Exactly, right? It's mystical. It's Aurora Borealis.
Yeah, that's not an animal, is it? I mean, as far as I know, it's a light formation from like the polar ice caps.
You really want to know?
Well, the logo was cool. I'll say that from a standpoint. It's like you got some bear rips or something. It's like you ripped a tent open and ate some tourists or something. I don't know. My buddy from high school works at Whitefish, so I don't know. Maybe he knows about what a northern light is.
It's not really a spiritual animal, but I do love penguins.
That's the end of the show. That I cannot exist anymore after the last 5 minutes of this program. So, folks, this is what you get. You get a very enjoyable style of wrestling and a very enjoyable group of coaches when you follow the NAIA, you grow with the NAIA, and you hang out with the NAIA. So Des Moines is the host this year at the fairgrounds, the Jacobson Center. Grandview does a good job in their crew at hosting it. I know that the crew in Topeka did an amazing job. Bob Gonzalez and his crew down there for the last 4 years as the tournament host. And what are you looking most forward to in Topeka this year outside of Jethro's Barbecue?
We're not going back to Topeka, remember?
Oh, didn't I say Topeka or did I say Des Moines?
You said, what are you looking forward to Topeka?
All right,
going back to Des Moines.
Okay. What are you most looking forward to? Let me start that question again then, jackhole. Yeah. I might leave this in here. I'm going to leave that in there. I don't know, whatever. So what are you most looking forward to when it comes to going back to Des Moines this year? And you cannot say Jethro's Barbecue.
The fan base. They're going to be honest. They're going to be excited. Everyone is the villain, and I like being the villain. So I think that's going to be a good atmosphere to bring our guys into.
Plus or minus number of team points you will be credited with losing this year.
The best part is the rule change, so I can get as many as I want without getting kicked out of the tournament. So might be 10 this year.
Basically, you'll be egging on Mike Ritchie from the other corner, trying to get him to lose points so you can finish ahead of him, like you do every year.
It could happen. It definitely could happen.
All right, Caleb Schaeffer here on Short Time. Thanks for the time, buddy.
Hey, Jason, I really appreciate it.
All right, folks. I don't want to get into like shaming by any means, but I have to go on a little mini rant when it comes to the food service industry in our great land. And I'll be quite honest with you. I sit at about 250 pounds, And there's some things that I eat that I probably shouldn't. And as much as I loathe fast food, there are certain times where it's quick, it's easy, it's right there. You just go get it. And when you have children who have discovered the Happy Meal, and don't get on me for feeding my kid fries. Okay, that's it's a rare occurrence. However, me going through a McDonald's drive-through or a drive-through at Chick-fil-A or something, little more common than my children. So I realize this isn't a wrestling thing, but it's just I want you to share my pain here just for a moment. So here it is, Saturday. Old Dominion has the day off from college football, so I don't have to glue myself to college football. I'll wait and watch Virginia Tech and Clemson later on in the evening. So, do some things around the house. It's nice, another weekend back home. Do some cleaning. We're thinking about moving things around and the dressers and such. And the oldest one is not feeling very good. So it ends up basically we decide, okay, we're moving the dressers around, the bed around. We're moving our room around. Well, we've got a tiny TV that my wife had kind of brought into the marriage from prior. It's like a 19-inch Insignia, one of those Best Buy DVD specials. So on our wall in our main room is like a 32-inch Emerson, again, that we bought like as soon as we bought this house like 5 years ago. I've kind of got, we need a better TV since we're watching a lot of stuff upstairs, and we are cord cutters. So we got the digital antenna, we got the Apple TV, the Fire Stick, that type of stuff. So my wife finally gives me the go-ahead to go get a bigger TV. I'm like, all right. So I'm researching this, and I think we're going to go with the smart TV. I find a Roku TV by Sharp at Best Buy in Northtown, which is in Blaine, about 5 miles from where I sit. Those of you who are familiar with Minnesota and how it works, that's where, it's a mall. I was thinking about going to Old Chicago for dinner, picking some stuff up. Well, that one's closed. The B-dubs over there closed, and it's just weird. I think it's just close up with no warning. The Applebee's actually in St. Anthony Village, like 2 months ago, just closed without warning. Boom, closed. So speaking of Applebee's, I want you to remember that for a second, which is not my favorite spot in the world either. But in a pinch, it's car side to go. Okay, it's not the worst thing you get. So I'm going to go to this Best Buy. There's an Applebee's right next to it that is actually still open. So I go over there. I order from the app. I say set my time to pick up at 6:45. We don't want to eat super late, but that is kind of late when you have kids. So I go to this Best Buy. I'm trying to make this done. I leave the house at like 6:15, get up there, find a TV. I'm like, ooh, this is the one I want. Call the wife, make sure I can buy the one that's $50 more. Get the okay on that. Okay, got there, got a Coke Zero for the road, and okay, drive through the parking lot. It's in right around the mall in the parking lot. I pull in I wait for the car side to go spot to open up. I pull in, girl walks out and says, hey, we're a little bit behind. It's 6:45 at this exact moment. I'm actually 6:47. So 2 minutes late. I've already paid online through the app, and I'm just waiting. So let me tell you the order here. We just simply got, like the Oriental salad and the steak Southwest salad, and I think an appetizer. Nothing exorbitant, nothing crazy, nothing that should take forever. So I'm waiting, and I'm like, okay, 15 minutes, I get it. It's a Saturday night. There are kids coming out. I think it's homecoming for some of the high schools in the area, and there are a lot of high schools around: Blaine, Spring Lake Park, Irondale, Mounds View. These are all high schools within a rational driving distance, Coon Rapids, to this particular Applebee's. So I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and the girl comes walking out from the car side to go probably every 5 minutes, and nothing's coming out. And then here comes the manager. What did you have, sir? What's your name? I says, Jason. Says, yeah, I had the 2 salads. Like, okay, it'll be right out. And that's probably around 7. So now here I am. It's 15 minutes. And then the same guy comes out again, and it's about 5-10 more minutes from there. So at this point, I start pulling up the ESPN app on my phone, watching some college football as pregame has started. So I'm watching Virginia Tech do their little Enter Sandman walk from the back on my phone, waiting for the food. Now, just behind me, there's also a Chick-fil-A. Let's keep that in mind for a moment. So I sit there, and at 7:30, I've had enough. The one woman who pulled up next to me says, my stuff's ain't going to be done, and she's talked just like this. She talked like she's from the South. My stuff ain't going to be done for another 20 minutes. I ain't waiting this long. And I'm like, you know what? Next time she comes out, and she doesn't have my food, I'm out. Comes out, I flag her down and says, hey, I'd like to speak to your manager. I'd like to refund. And I'm realizing that this is abnormal. So the manager comes up, and she's pretty much almost in tears. Probably close to my age. She's not a kid. She's not like overwhelmed by her first bad shift, but apparently 3 cooks like quit. And that's what they told me. And based on the way people were coming in and out of that restaurant, I tend to believe this theory. So, okay, fine. You know what? Chalk it up. It's a loss. You've had a bad day. I've worked in food service. I know what it's like. So I'm sorry. Just refund my money. I'm going to go somewhere else. So at this point, it's 7:45. I've waited an hour for 2 salads. No food. So I was like, all right, well, Chick-fil-A is like kind of like my fast food vice. And I pull right in. I get my combos, and I always kind of get like a sandwich for the ride home. Yeah, I'm that guy. Yeah, that's probably why I might be 255 is that sandwich for the ride. Well, I get there, and I'm like, okay, I grab my sandwich. I chomp that down, and I'm getting ready to steal a fry. And I'm turning onto my road, and I'm like, Ugh! They forgot the fries. How do you forget the fries on the combo? Now, I realize this as a consumer, I should be checking the bag. And if you want to check out of the show right now, that's fine. I normally don't talk about fast food, but this whole scenario, trust me, this has a finish to it. I'm not sure what it is, but okay, so it should be on me to check the things before I pull out of the drive-thru. But at that point, I had already been waiting an hour for my food. I was frustrated, and there was also a line of cars behind me, and this long line of cars that were in front of me, probably from people leaving Applebee's because they couldn't get food. So get there, I get to Silver Lake Road. I come in, and as soon as I'm at a stoplight, and I realize there's no fries in the bag, I text my wife. I go, actually, I use my Apple Watch, and I use the little doo-doo, and I go, they left the freaking fries. And by that time, it was already pointless for me to turn around and go back. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, are you kidding me? Wait for an hour, and I don't even get the meal. And they were out of the superfood side, which was actually the first thing I had actually wanted to get. They have like a kale and cranberry superfood side that's actually pretty good. So fast forward to Sunday. We have the worst McDonald's on the planet in this glorious city of New Brighton. If I were to do weather reports on Twitter from the McDonald's on Silver Lake Road in New Brighton, it would be nothing but gloomy, doom and gloom. There is nothing sunshiny about this particular place. And it's to the point where when I have that craving and go through, they always forget something. If I go through 10 times, they forget something 9 times. So I decide to go to the Pinnacle Bags tournament, Brandon Paulson's wrestling club in Shoreview, which is about 10 minutes away. I get there. I was going to do some interviews for the Guillotine Grapevine. The situation didn't present itself to be very good. It was raining. It was outside with the rain, and Paulson was running practice. So it's just one of those things that, okay, this wasn't a good idea. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just go back home and we'll finish moving stuff around. I had since hooked up the big TV. I was pretty happy with it. So I get back, and my daughter Lucy's not feeling good, and my wife's like, okay, just get her a Happy Meal. And we know she's not going to eat the Happy Meal. She just wants the toy. The new Lego movie is out. So, and my wife goes, make sure you check the bag, because last time we went through and got her a Happy Meal a month ago or so, the toy wasn't in the bag. So I don't know if you guys are laughing or crying with me right now, or have checked out, but okay, so I go through, and okay, I got to pick up Five Guys. Again, this is like, by the way, we're eating totally healthy this month. So I pick up something on the way. It's right by Shoreview, right by Pinnacle. Pick that up, and I've got my wife and I's dinner, and then we'll pick up the Happy Meal for the kid, and check the bag. As I'm through, guess what? No yogurt pouch. Oh, the toy's in there, and the toy is a cup. I mean, first of all, what type of Happy Meal toy is a cup? How incensed would you be if you were a kid and you're like, oh, I get my toy. It's a Lego movie toy, and it's a cup. Oh, it's a cool looking cup, but come on, a cup. That's the one thing that Chick-fil-A kind of struggles with, is their kids' meals aren't stellar. By the way, I know I should not be feeding my kids this stuff. So, guess what? Something's missing, and it's the yogurt pouch. So I park. And I'm normally very calm and patient with people, not on the message boards, but I am, or on Twitter. But in person, in a customer service type of role, it's just something I try not. I know it's not their fault a lot of the time. So I walk in, and I didn't have it out with this manager. I walk in, it's like, sir, is there something wrong? I was like, yeah, you forgot the yogurt. And I said, if I come through this drive-through 10 times, 9 times you guys mess up the order and leave something out. It's awful. And I just kind of stormed out. Now, I don't feel good about like storming out of anything, but it's a bigger issue because no matter what, it seems to be a real pattern. And again, this has nothing to do with wrestling, but where has the customer service gone? Where has the completeness to detail? We as wrestlers, like we do things right. We're going to be complete. There's no cutting corners. So when I go to it's always takeout. The lesson here is not get takeout or don't go fast food. But there's like a Mexican joint down the street that's really good. Last time they forgot the tortilla chips. Why are you going to order a bowl of queso, delicious white queso, and forget the chips? And it's hard for me to search the bag because it's a giant bag. Okay, well, they've never forgotten the chips before. It doesn't think of me to check the bag every single time to make sure these people, in front of these people, to make sure they got my order right. Well, that's going to change. So now I'm going to be that guy that's going to take an extra 30 seconds in the drive-thru to make sure these people didn't forget something. Well, maybe this month I don't go through the drive-thru. That's great. Jimmy John, sometimes forgetting to cut the sandwich in half. And I realize these are first world problems, people. Half of this is in jest, but half of it is serious. Where did the completeness go? Where did attention to detail go? Where did doing a good job go? I mean, I worked at a crap job at Kentucky Fried Chicken when I was young. I worked at a Blimpie sub shop. And you know what? Working at a Blimpie sub shop when you're an overweight teenager doesn't do much for your self-esteem. That is a true fact. I worked at McDonald's. I worked at KFC. I also worked at a newspaper. I worked at a radio station. I worked at, Parks and Recreation. I've had jobs that I've had to interact with people, and I've had jobs that if I don't do my job and I leave stuff out, I'm going to get docked for it. It just doesn't seem like people care. I made $6 an hour at McDonald's for the 2 hours I worked there. The KFC job was actually pretty cool, but if we miss something, I mean, come on, it's frustrating as a consumer. And more or less, it's for my kids. If you leave something out for me, I'm like, but I just wonder how much stuff that they're ringing up and charging you for that they don't actually lose inventory on. Is that how they're keeping the food costs down? Anyway, that is my rant. I'm wondering where this all went. So this is atypical. If this is the first time you're listening to the show, I don't rant about fast food very often. I just wanted to tell somebody and have you share my pain. So I don't know. Is it a question? Do I throw this out on Twitter? At Jason M. Bryant, tell me your most frustrating fast food takeout forgotten experience. Like I can only think of Sinbad, the stand-up comic, who goes, you reach into this like, I'll drive back 10 miles for some fries. Well, not anymore, but yeah. So my weekend was complete with moving stuff around, a sick kid, and then forgetting my food. On the bright side, I got 2 more controllers for my Retro Pi retro gaming system with a Raspberry Pi that I can't get to sync, and I'm a glutton for punishment because my wife Abby just destroys me mercilessly in Dr. Mario. There you have it, folks. The end of the episode 358 of the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, where, yes, this monologue, this soliloquy, if you will, about fast food, takeout, and my first world problems. That's all I got for now. If you love the show, you love the program, and you like these mini rants, I don't say subscribe for the mini rants, especially not the ones about food, because I'm not eating junk this month because I don't have to travel until preseason nationals, which I'll be announcing with Brian Keck, preseasonnationals.com. So if you like the program, as we finished out 15 new episodes last week for International Podcast Day, check out the hashtag International Podcast Day. Actually, that was overrun with stuff, so check out my timeline from September 30th, International Podcast Day. I tweeted the subscribe link to every single wrestling podcast I know of. And that's not just the ones on this network. It was the 3 from Flow. It's the, Pat Kelly's got 3 of them for Seaman Wrestling, Kansas Wrestling Coaches Association, Kansas USA Wrestling, and all that stuff. There's every single link was tweeted. You can go to mattalkonline.com/directory to find all those shows. Even Ben Askren was looking for new podcasts to listen to, and he only subscribed to like 3 or 4. I subscribed to 96 podcasts. Yeah, 96. It's kind of a problem, kind of a big problem. But if you're subscribed to all of these and you like the content we're putting out here on the Matt Talk Podcast Network, and it's not just me, but guys like Earl Smith, the group of PA Power Wrestling, the guys at Track Wrestling, just contributing so much to this network. Thank you. Richard Immel, of course, at Bonus Points. Kyle Klingman, the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum. MattTalkOnline.com/join the team. That way you can contribute to this effort of bringing you on-demand original wrestling content en masse. I mean, 15 episodes in a week. That was 13 hours of content. You were set for your drives to and from the football tailgate. So that's what we got. A new show from NC State now on the network, the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins. Check that out at packmentalitypodcast.com. Again, subscribe to the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. If this is your first time listening, matttalkonline.com/get-short-time. Get the daily email newsletter for free at matttalkonline.com/news. That's all I got for now. Thank you for spending your time with me and painfully hearing me out about my fast food worries, because when you're in the drive-thru and you've got nothing but time, I don't know. You've got time. You've always got time, right? You've always got time for short time.
Show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to matttalkonline.com.